Okay, I think we're live. Gabriel, you want to kick us off? Let's come off mute first, and
Sorry.
then we'll be
Yes.
perfect.
Thank you. Thank you.
Sounds good.
Everyone, unmute their mics. That was a very professional countdown. I'm very, very proud of our team. I was gonna wait just one more minute to let people join in. Hmm. But I can start if you want. Okay, I think that's enough waiting and enough of a recall the uncomfortable silence. So I'm just going to start. I hope that this very expensive mic doesn't fail me now. So, good morning, good evening, and good night, everyone. I know that we have people joining from all over the world at different time zones. Thank you all for coming in today. It's not easy to convince people to hop on a webinar anymore now that the pandemic is over, but I promise you it will all be worth it. We'll be discussing the hot topic of the moment, artificial intelligence from a technical and communication standpoint. And I'm not going to lie, my dear friend Sam Altman couldn't be here today. He called me to cancel last minute because apparently ChatGPT finally became sentient and it's taking over OpenAI. I'm only half kidding. Joining us today are Steve Marcinuk, General Manager and co-founder of Internal Relations, and Anna Heim, reporter at TechCrunch. Steve, for those who don't know him, is a serial agency builder and magna cum laude marketing graduate from Wharton, with several exits under his belt. Steve built and runs the core functionality behind internal relations operational infrastructure. And he's an all around great guy. And I'm not just saying that because he's my boss. So don't worry about that. And on the other side, we have Anna. You all know Anna, of course, from her brilliant work at TechCrunch, where she covers, well, almost anything known to man. Her deep dives are the reason I'm paying for TechCrunch Plus. Where what you might not know about her is that she's also the former Latin American and media editor at The Next Web, a former startup founder in her own right. And I'm sorry, Anna, I promise you that I've been practicing, but Sciences Po Paris alum, which is one of the most prestigious
Perfect.
institutions in the world.
I think you nailed it.
Yeah, life's too short to learn French. Sorry. And for all those wondering who I am, my name is Gabriel de la Rosa. I'm a principal at Internal Relations, and I will be your humble moderator for today. So buckle your seats, everyone, because this is not going to be your boring run-of-the-mill webinar. I can promise you that. I'm going to give the floor to Steve first, but afterward, Anna will use all of her journalistic expertise to cross-examine him. So without further ado, Steve, what does the future hold for AI in 2024? And should I start being more polite to ChatGPT just in case?
Absolutely. It's a pleasure to connect. Thank you so much, Gabriel, for organizing this, Anna, for joining us on this webinar. I think it's probably good to start off by addressing what some folks would see as the elephant in the room, which is AI going to take my job? For folks who are here in the public relations space, there's been a lot of chat about what ChatGPT and similar technology is able to do. I'll throw this back to Gabriel in a second as well, but from my stance, from our take in building the technology, we do not think at all that AI will be replacing people's jobs in the public relations industry. That said, I heard a quote the other day that I think makes a lot of sense, is that you likely will not be replaced by AI, but there is a chance that you would be replaced by someone who knows how to leverage AI to do the job better. So that really is the focus of what we're doing at Intelligent Relations. What I believe will be the through line for a lot of our conversation here today is how AI can and will be used in the public relations industry to help folks, professionals, PR communicators, strategists, and kind of across the board, how to help them do their job more effectively with better insights, with better tools, because AI is definitely raising the bar in terms of what would be expected of someone in our industry, both from clients, if you're a PR practitioner and you have clients, by journalists, I dare say. I'm not going to put Anna on the spot here, but I dare say generic, boring, bad pitches, poorly targeted. The day for that is long gone, and with better insights and better tools, journalists and editors would expect you to do your job better and only pitch them relevant content. So there's that side as well. There's folks out there who are already using the technology to do their jobs better. I'm going to plant the seed with a couple of just big picture trends as well that we are actively paying attention to, and that kind of run through the work that we're doing at Intelligent Relations. So there's a couple of trends that I think are worth keeping in mind, and very happy to dive into any and all of these soon. So some of the trends we're seeing in AI that have proven to be the case over 2023 and will continue into 2024 are that AI is being used to do more and more in the public relations space because the technology is getting both better and cheaper. This is a very typical technical acceleration curve that we're seeing, and that means that, for example, you can do things with AI that previously would have been unimaginable. You can start to analyze on a very large scale journalist coverage or publication coverage and extract themes in ways that just previously wouldn't have made sense because of the cost and time limitations. Now, for example, we're analyzing tens of millions of articles a month to understand publication coverage, journalist coverage, et cetera, and on a level that just was technically impossible to do at the speed and scale we're doing now as a startup. Beyond that, we're also seeing that AI is getting a lot more connected. So I think this is one of the things that is probably on the radar of folks who are paying attention to AI trends in the last couple of months, is that previously OpenAI, using that as a common example, you could write a prompt and it would give you an output. Then chat became the normative format where you're interacting with a bot. And then you're seeing things like they started to have plugins where you can connect data from Kayak or from a database or from a third party. And so increasingly, we're seeing that AI is getting not only smarter and faster, but more connected. And from my perspective, that is a good thing that'll help to, again, help people do their jobs better. To give a specific example, GPTs, which AI assistants from OpenAI, are allowing ChatGPT to connect to backend databases or to analyze documents. And just by having these foundational models connected to more inputs, it's making them a whole lot more useful. Rather than talking to a bot in a silo with very limited knowledge, that knowledge can essentially evolve with more connectivity, and that'll open up a whole lot of new opportunities. Beyond that, I would say that a theme that we're looking into that's quite interesting is the regulatory side of things. Broadly speaking, in order for technology like this to become adopted on a large scale, folks, companies, governments are going to feel a lot more comfortable if there is responsible and predictable legislation that is coming live. We just saw this coming out of Europe, the first stab at comprehensive AI legislation. And we should expect that more of that is going to come into place. And right now what we're seeing, it makes a lot of sense. The regulation is focused on there are some higher risk, higher power models that need to be looked at more carefully. And then at the very least, they're pushing for transparency in AI usage. And that's something, whether it's in the regulatory framework or just more broadly, transparency as part of this adoption process is very much so going to continue down the line. So there's plenty of other trends if you get into the details here. I think that folks are keen to hear from Anna and Gabriel as well, but big picture, those are some of the things that we're seeing, and it's baked into all of the trends that we're following here at Intelligent Relations, and happy to go into more detail. Gabriel, before we move on, is AI going to take our jobs? You're on the front lines of the PR on our end. What are you seeing?
No, I that's not my general stance. I'm very critical of technology. I don't consider myself a techno optimist of any kind. Uh, and least of all, I wouldn't use that word, but I am very excited about certain things that I didn't think were possible before, not just before AI, but before I will say GPT-4 and GPTs in general. I That's what I'm most, as a PR professional, I'm most excited about, because the fact that I don't want AI to write horrible poetry for me. I want AI to do all the menial administrative stuff that I don't want to do on a daily basis. That's what I want AI. That's the involvement that I'm expecting from the technology. And on the regulatory side, I think that for AI to be an intrinsic part of our lives, it has to be regulated in some way. But just the way that it will, and the way that that will be applied or have consequences on the communications industry, I will have yet to see it. And I do think that the same principles that apply to effective communications in general, you know, way before AI happened, still apply today if you're going to leverage AI to use in comms. That's also my general stance. So being more authentic, for example, being more honest, being more open. If you're using AI to heighten those aspects of your communication strategy and who you are as a person, who you are as a spokesperson on behalf of a company, then I do think that you'll be using AI right almost no matter what. But if you're using that to be more opaque, and to, instead of building bridges, to try to put some distance between yourself and the truth, then obviously I don't think that the consequences will be good. So I'll leave the floor to Anna. I know that you don't want to hear from me. You came here for her. So please, Anna.
Well, first, I was going to say I hope AI won't take my job either, and especially not the fun part, which is writing. But of course, there's always space for the admin part, the boring part of our job. I think all of us have sides of our jobs that we don't enjoy, and I'd love AI to help with that. Also, up to some point with inspiration. So, Steve, I was curious what you think of where uh, where to cross and not cross the line in terms of pitching.
Yeah, so we have a lot of folks who are day to day in the PR world here, and some folks who are maybe more on the tech side. Generally speaking, a common approach to helping to earn media coverage on behalf of clients is to help to come up with creative, compelling, interesting narratives or otherwise offer value to the media landscape by reaching out to journalists, editors, storytellers with information or ideas or reports, et cetera, that could fit into a narrative that they want to tell. It often upsets clients, but broadly speaking, most journalists don't care about that new feature you launched. They really care about the news, about the broader narratives that they're telling. So the ability to help to create a compelling story or have the right information and reach out to a journalist and give them relevant, timely, interesting, credible, well-sourced information is part of, I mean, I dare I say, is part of what helps the news get written in a way that is valuable and useful for readers. So when we say pitching, that's kind of what we're talking about from the PR side of things. And in terms of how to use AI to do that, there's a couple of ways that we see AI working really well, and a couple of ways that would be lines that I would advise not to cross. So gathering better information to help do better targeting of pitching is really useful. So I'll break that down. Understanding what a journalist cares about and covers is a really important thing. You have to make sure that your pitch is relevant to the person you're sending it to. And historically, some of the older school journalist databases would be manually tagged by a person who's saying this person covers technology or covers finance, etc. And that's a pretty thick slice that doesn't really get into the weeds of what someone cares about. Right. So they could be caring, if they're writing about Google, for example, are they writing about Google's newest product? Are they writing about Google's stock price? Are they writing about a story about keeping big tech executives accountable? lot of different angles there. So one good application of AI is doing better analysis of the news and of journalists' coverage to understand what they are and are not likely to care about based on their previous coverage. Now, I'm not saying from my standpoint, using this to analyze their coverage of what folks are caring about, pretty good application. You can do a deep dive and you can use this to, look at their last 100 articles, for example, and draw some trends from that so you know that what you're reaching out to them about is appropriate. That would be one good example. Bad examples from my perspective would be using the same process to spy on their social media and then write personalized comments about their pets, for example, as a way to get into it. I'm only half kidding, but that is a similar application that could be done that would be probably a very bad idea. So understanding someone's work to give them relevant stories, probably pretty kosher, probably a pretty good idea. Beyond that, also better target, better targeting, yes. Mass outreach, also bad. So technology, part of what we're saying, you can do bigger, better, faster, stronger. You could start doing bigger campaigns, reaching out to more folks, etc. Also, got to be careful. I mean, Gabriel, you've said this in the past that better to send one or two or three good pitches than 100 bad ones. Maybe you can address the spray and pray nature of PR and how this could address that issue.
Please.
Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna tend to that, and I'm also going to give another example on what not to do and what not to use AI for. So when I started working in PR, when I was a not so young PR analyst, I remember that Mograg released a very people used to clutch the pearls whenever Mograg will say that journalists, especially from top tier media, were getting 30 pitches a week. And that was huge. And many of my friends working, especially at big publications, will used to complain. And now the most updated data is that journalists, on average, are getting 120 pitches or so a day, to the point that I do have a friend working at Reuters, by the way, that told me that he never checks his email. He actually uses his Reuters email as a decoy for people to send him pitches to that email. So whenever he has to contact a source to work on an article, he has several secret emails that no, I'm not going to share with any of you, because I'm not going to do that to him. But that's the point that we are at. And it's very sad to see the industry going this way, which obviously he points out to a deeper problem that could be heightened by AI in that sense. Because if you are a mediocre writer doing a mediocre job at your PR agency, then PR is going to make this worst. So I will say that the people that truly know PR will use AI to send the best stories to the right people at the right time. And in that sense, AI will act as we've always discussed. AI is a mirror of your behavior. So if you act badly, you will get, as they say, garbage in, garbage out, but applying a slightly different sense. So if you are bad at your job, you will be bad at your job using AI. If you're good at your job, you're going to be exceptional if you use AI. So in that way, I do think that we need to not only circumvent this problem using AI with the proper principles on how to do PR properly, and to serve as a true bridge between the storyteller, true storytellers, because at the end of the day, that's what journalists are, the best storytellers, and connect them with the stories that they do want to share with everyone. And there's a way to do that with AI, as Steve just explained. And also from a corporate communication standpoint, and I do want to address that because I'm seeing that this isn't used to be the case, but now it is, unfortunately. But just to give a very extreme example, if you're going to lay off like half of your staff in the middle of the corporate Christmas dinner, don't do so by reading a speech written by ChatGPT. You know, that that happens, and that becomes obviously a nightmare that has been previously reported on big outlets. And that means that for certain things, AI will become a fundamental part of how we work, like, for example, targeting our research and even feedback. AI is nowadays able to give you feedback at a point that I didn't thought was possible. Just to give a very simple example, H comes from TechCrunch himself. He developed this chatbot that is able to give feedback to people that pitch him, and obviously it's very ferocious. And if you don't want to, if you don't have a tough skin, the answers might surprise you. And he's doing that on purpose, obviously, and it's very, very funny. I've tried it so many times. But that's a way for us to, if you're able to pass on that filter, you will be able to get the best stories to the best person that obviously that will be a great fit for him, and he will be able to, you will have some more degree of certainty that whatever it is that you're pitching also will turn out to be a great article in itself, whatever that, at the end means. But that's that, I will say that that would be best case and worst case scenario on using AI.
Yeah, I agree. I also think that it totally makes sense to concentrate on my work, for instance, when pitching me, and not my personal life or attributes. So I really wish that people who contacted me had read at least one of my articles. So if they've read a summary of 100, that's definitely going to be a game changer. And another thing I was thinking of is that usually PRs are pretty good at following up, in the sense that they do follow up, but sometimes it's too much. So I was wondering if AI can help maybe with spacing, and also I can imagine the toll that it's taking to just stay on top of all the conversations you're having with people.
Yeah, so I think technology can help to do better. It can assist in better relationship management and relationship building. Um, some of these features are AI, and some of these are just straight up workflow improvements. But uh, an example of what we're doing with our platform is that because you can put into a system all of your communications history, kind of like a regular CRM. So you can see before you send another pitch to Anna, it'll note that, hey, you had a positive interaction with her like 3 weeks ago. Make sure you have that in mind before you reach out again. Or you just reached out to this person with a story idea, and they replied negatively. Systems can help you to learn from feedback over time. And that's one of the other trends that AI is getting better and better at, is recursive learning. So in practice, systems can get smarter and smarter and help humans make better decisions by arming them with better information. And some of that is straight up AI, and some of it is just building technology into the right workflows.
Another side of getting better, I guess, is just keeping up with what I do, because what I write about these days is probably different from what I was writing a couple of years ago when I joined TechCrunch, and my bio hasn't changed, or I mean, you have to read my stuff
Uh-huh.
to actually know that. So
Mhm. I might add one thing here too, is that um, getting the right slice. I'm going to sound like a nerd here, but I kind of am. So getting the right slice of information to review is appropriate. So your most recent article might have been about Google, but that doesn't mean that you're writing about Google all the time. I'm going to keep using that kind of an example. So just because you wrote about pets in the context of a new pet technology startup, that doesn't mean you care about pets. You care about technology, for example. And that would be clear if someone understood, a broad enough sample of your coverage. And I think that's one of the things when I first started out doing PR agency work was we would get a lot of it would the journalists would match when I went to a typical database, would match on a keyword topic basis because of one single article. And that's not really how the media works, and it's not how people's individual focuses work. That's I think that's a way that AI can help as well to draw those trends over time.
So if I may, there's actually a question for me, and I think it's a good one that many people will probably have as well, is what makes me want to publish something. So first, I would say I never want to publish a release because there's a gap between what's news and what the story that people want to tell, of course. So what I publish is never going to be just the press release, especially in my role where I do analysis. So what's helpful for me is that it's topical in some way. So for me, being able to connect it to a trend, for instance, or to recent news or to something that I covered recently. And again, that's something where AI can help because it can give you some context. And yeah, that's my main point.
Yeah, and to add on to that, if I may, we have seen this to be consistently true. We saw that what you're talking about is true over a large number of professional writers, is that some people have that same pattern where they would not cover press releases, but some folks actually do respond well to and write about press releases. And your focus on analysis is something that is very common, but other folks, right, there's different, not just topical, but on like an attribute basis. So that's actually one of the things we've been really doubling down on, is understanding not just the topics of coverage, but the makeup, the attributes of the coverage, so that someone would be able to anticipate that, yeah, this is not a person who writes press releases, so don't send the darn thing. But if you have analysis, if you have data, so drawing a deep cut of analysis on the attributes of someone's coverage will also help to pitch more intelligently. And that's a straight application of how that was not possible some months ago, but because of faster, cheaper models, it's very much so a good application that we're seeing in our platform.
That makes sense. I think we have another question, but that one is probably more up your alley, Steve, in terms of yeah.
Sure. Scheduling of appointments. So in light of the advancement of AI assistance in the scheduling of appointments, pitching emails, bit of a long one. How can individuals in the PR industry evolve to adapt to more automated roles? What skills should PR professionals prioritize to stay relevant in the age of AI? Cool. So I think I'll reframe this slightly. I think it's a great question. To reframe slightly, AI is able to repeat simple tasks more easily, and that would mean that repetitive automatable tasks would become less important to someone's job. So if you have positioned yourself as an expert at tagging data manually on journalists, that's not a very compelling future going into a new AI reality. But the things that matter most are, I would say, strategic insights, relationship management, the ability to think creatively. So positioning yourself more on the client relationship management side, or positioning yourself to be really good at understanding and relating to people in the media and supporting them in a way. There's a lot of human intelligence type of functions that are critical. And then also strategy is one of the things that we've played around a lot with in terms of using AI to assist in strategy. And I think that the best way I can put this is that AI can generate ideas, but only people who know what they're doing can evaluate if those ideas have merit or not. So we have played with pitch generator ideas and things like that. And AI can be, even if you just play with ChatGPT, it can come up with 100 great, arguably great, in quotes, ideas for a pitch, but only someone who understands the client and the media and understands the zeitgeist of how stories are written, like only that person can be the final arbiter of what is actually good and meritorious. So being someone who understands understands the standard and uses technology to meet the standard is also going to be very well positioned. And it's actually kind of similar to management. You have a team of people working under you. You can delegate down tasks, and especially in the beginning, that person might not give you great work. But as a manager, someone who is leveraging a team of folks to have you do better work, the same is true for AI. You will get input, you will get ideas. Some of it will be of varying degrees of usefulness, but it's ultimately on you to decide what is worthy of reaching out with, what's worthy of being pitched, and similar. And if I take that one step further, it's a question that I think is a natural extension of this. Is how do you know? the accountability of pitching. AI hallucinates, for example. It's getting better, but some people have said that hallucinations are an innate feature of AI rather than something that can be overcome. So I think that the same approach we just talked about, like you as the user of the technology are responsible for what you pitch, having that same mentality. Sure, use AI to help you do your job. Sure, use AI to help draft a pitch per se. But if you're sending it out, whether it was written by you, a teammate, or AI, you should be the one who's ultimately responsible for the content of what you're sending, what you're publishing. True on the writing side, true on the pitching side. And I think that it puts even more importance on the role of PR pro to understand the standard and stick to it.
I also wanted to ask you more specifically about what people should be doing next year. I mean, do you think AI is still optional in the next month? Do you think it's still an experiment that people should dabble with, or does it need to be part of the tool set right now?
So uh, there's a great image from Gartner, which is the AI hype cycle. I think maybe one of our teammates has it. We could pull it up. I think it's a good illustration of where the technology is. What we've seen is that there's a wide range of AI technology. What we're mostly talking about, what probably brought people to this webinar, is mostly generative AI. That's using artificial intelligence to generate text. So if I were to do it with my hand, and maybe we can pull it up as well. Yeah, Gabriel, maybe you could share. If a member of our team can share, that'd be great. Otherwise, I think you can
I'm
understand the
showing my
concept.
screen now. I don't know if you're able to see it, but I'm showing my screen now. I'm
Oh,
showing the Garden Hype Cycle. Yeah,
super.
there we go.
There you go. Cool. So we'll send this out as part of the webinar follow-up. AI and many different forms of technology follow a predictable pattern of it's super early, no one's paying attention to it, then it becomes more and more relevant and people are getting more and more excited about it. That's the vertical axis here. The y-axis is how hyped the technology is, and then there's usually a bit of a reckoning, a crashing down into the trough of disillusionment, and then it kind of finds its practical use case. And so technology that's quite far on the curve would be things like image recognition. So self-driving cars, for example, are able to identify fire hydrants, in part because we've been doing CAPTCHAs for the last 7 years and pointing out fire hydrants every time we log into a platform. So we've trained that technology. That's a technology that has a use case. Logging into your phone with your face. Okay, so like that's cool. Some AI technology, not overhyped, has a practical application. And right now, what we're kind of cresting on is that generative AI part of the technology, that development, where there's been a tremendous amount of hype. A lot of people were incredibly excited. I was looking at articles from the last year or two, and it's like, is AI going to absolutely transform everything? My opinion is it'll have a significant impact in certain areas of application. And that's what we're going to start to see over the next months, year or two, is that generative AI will continue to find practical, valuable use cases where it is good. And people, just through usage and technological development, will find out really good in this, not so good in these other areas. And so it'll naturally evolve to a place where it offers clear value. It should be used in these areas, but to I don't think the hype around AI will transform everything is sustainable, just like no other AI technology has been sustainably hyped for too long. It has to find its practical use case. And I think, fortunately, we're finding a lot of those and learning those lessons quite quickly.
But once it does, you don't think it's going to be optional, right? I mean, the sense I'm getting is that it's going to make a big difference between people who are good at their job and people who stop doing their job, maybe.
Yeah, if I can answer
Yeah.
that one, yes, yes. Please start. If you're not already familiar with AI, start becoming familiar very soon. Because the thing is that now, for just to give one specific example, because I spend 8 hours or so on average in meetings daily. So the time
I'm
that
sorry
I
about that.
spend,
That's
yes,
that's
that's Steve's
insane.
fault, by the way. Yes, and I spend at least 3 to 4 hours reading, because you can't be a good PR or slash marketing slash communications professional, whatever you want to call it, if you don't read. And you have to read. I'm subscribed to most newsletters. I'm trying to read every single, not just news article, but especially studies that come out whenever they come out. And to me, what I find nowadays indispensable for me to do for me to deliver the quality of work that I'm used to is that I can use GPTs or LLMs in general as reasoning engines. So I can grab information and I can grab an entire study that has, I don't know, 200 pages and feed that to the machine and then let the machine tell me like the bullet points. So if I can find something that I think will be interesting or things that I can actually add to my narrative, then I will read the source.
Hmm.
So
May I
it
add?
yeah.
Oops.
No,
If
Steve,
I may
go
add, we agree, and I'll add a slight twist on this. So I think it'll become indispensable to doing your job. However, there's folks like us who are building technology that are incorporating AI into the technology. So while it's there's definitely going to be people like Gabriel, like myself, who are total geeks and love playing with the latest tools developed for developers or the sandbox versions of it. It is the responsibility of technology builders, of platform builders, SaaS builders, to intelligently and thoughtfully integrate AI so that people who are just doing kind of sort of the same thing will naturally get exposure to the tools and benefit from them. So you don't have to be a super tech enthusiast to go out searching. Your database will be naturally updated with better information because AI was integrated into the back end. So I think, to me, that's a bit of a silver lining, is that, yeah, it's great to be a tech evangelist and an enthusiast who wants to go out and discover on your own. But piece by piece, day by day, all of the systems you're already using are going to incorporate AI thoughtfully in better and better ways. And it'll be a competition. The best tools will continue to emerge, and many of those tools will become the best because they're using the technology better.
And just to add to that, very briefly, I don't know if your parents will used to tell you this to any of you, but my
I don't
dad
know.
used to tell me if you wanna be somebody in life, you have to learn to speak English and learn how to use Excel. And I think that I will add to that AI. To be honest, to me, is that fundamental.
I'm trying to think of appropriate wisdom shared by my parents that would be appropriate here. I'm blanking, but if it comes up, I'll share. Yeah, I will teach my son to use
Life's
AI.
too short to
How
learn
about
French is not part of the list. Yeah.
that? Yeah,
There's still time to learn French. That's my
French
take.
completely irrelevant. AI. Okay.
AI.
Yeah.
Gabriel, your call.
Just
I
one
mean,
more. I guess
yeah.
the yeah. Go ahead.
Do we
No, I
happy to
just
keep
wanted
going if you have
to
another question?
maybe end on the time frame. I do. I wanted to ask you in terms of what you described as our PR daily tools starting to integrate AI. Do you think most PRs will be using some form of AI next year, or should?
Yeah, I think it's clearly the case. We're talking to agencies on a daily basis, and many of the agencies and PR solo practitioners and in-house comms people we're talking to are saying that they're using Claude, they're using ChatGPT. Talked to someone yesterday who was saying, we don't really like Claude and GPT and ChatGPT. We're more Bing people. Like, we're getting a lot of exposure because people are coming to us looking to use our platform. We're getting a lot of exposure to people who are on the cutting edge of PR right now. And not to frighten folks, but yeah, a lot of the agencies out there are already in the position like Gabrielle, who are enthusiastically embracing this technology and looking for better solutions. So there's a lot of demand from the professional side of things. Like, if you're not doing this yet, you very quickly are falling behind your competition in the PR services side of things. And then on the tech side of things, there's increasingly platforms that are legacy platforms and new entrants that are embracing AI at multiple touch points. Our platform, this was built from the ground up with AI to be implemented at every meaningful touch point, and we've built 15 plus AI models that are part of it. Some of the legacy players are increasingly doing things like similar journalist recommendations. That's AI. Most of the platforms have some primitive version of a pitch writer or a press release writer that they're adding on as well. And so basically every major player in the PR world, on the PR and comms tech side, are at least experimenting, whether that's on generative AI, suggestions, matching. I think it's good for the industry that there's a lot of innovation already taking place.
Okay. I think that we calibrated that. We overextended by 10 minutes, but the conversation was really good. So I appreciate it. So thank you everyone for coming. Thank you, Steve and Anna, for agreeing to participate in this crazy thing that we just conducted. And thank you from the bottom of my heart to Andre and her from our social media team. And on behalf of Interrelation, we wish you all the happiest of holidays.
Thanks. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Happy holidays.